Okay, time for some man time. If your father stops calling, which implies that he was calling, communication stops. What does it mean? If he stops buying clothes and shoes, which means and implies he was already doing it, you all somehow feel as if he does nothing. And then communication stops. What does it mean? If you saw your father, even if it was as a child, if he came to your mother's house as a child, he would take you to his house as a child. He'd spend time with you as a child. And when he stopped coming, you no longer saw him, which implies that he was doing it already. Doesn't it mean your mother refused to take you to him? And if that is the case, doesn't it mean she refused to reciprocate the gesture, the responsibility, the duty? If he was already looking after you because it's his job, supposedly, but it's her job too. So if he was coming to you and getting you, or coming to you and hanging out with you, why can't your mother do the same thing if it's for you? If he was buying shoes and clothes that went home to your mother's house, why doesn't she buy shoes and clothes that goes to his house? Isn't that called family? To be familiar, to operate mutually, relationship. Relateral is relate. If shit is happening one-sided, only from his position, only from his direction, when he stops, everything ceases. Doesn't it mean there was no relationship? Doesn't that mean he did everything? Doesn't it also mean that your mother taught you to not appreciate what he did? Doesn't it also mean that she refused to do those good things that he was doing, which then makes her a bad person? Because if he was doing good and well, and it wasn't being reciprocated or mutually done, if she was doing the opposite of good and well, what do we call it? If you feel as if you don't owe your father any respect because of what he doesn't do, but you've never paid him the respects from what he did do, what does it mean? It means you were taught to think like a disrespectful, disobedient, narcissistic child. But you didn't learn that from what your father didn't do. Because it's odd that you can learn what he didn't do, but you didn't learn from what he did. It's odd that you can't learn to reciprocate what he did, but you can learn to reciprocate what he didn't do. Isn't that interesting? You can learn to do his bad, his wrong, but you can't learn to do his good and his rights. Isn't that interesting? Or were you just taught by the bad parent to do the bad things to everybody else except her? You see, you don't measure your father's love by what he does forever. Because love doesn't last forever where you get no reciprocation of it. Meaning, you have to pour something into me for me to push something out. You have to put a quarter in the machine for it to give you what it has in it. You have to put it inside the woman in order for her to have a baby. Nothing comes from nothing. Something always supposed to come from something. So if a person is doing good and well by you, even if they just initiate it, the initiation is supposed to be reciprocated with something equal of measure. And at some point, if that's not being reciprocated, that is not happening, then the person who was initiated will stop, even love, because they have none to give, because they've depleted themselves. Translation: if your father doesn't give and you've been taught to despise him, to resent him for what he doesn't give, it means it's assumed that he can give it. And if the person who he doesn't give to is you and your mother, but your mother talks about how she is burdened with having to take care of and give to you, then it means if your father can take care of himself and you and supposedly be okay, but your mother can take care of herself and you and be burdened, it means your father has more than your mother. And if your father then has more than your mother, why would your mother teach you to follow her demonstrations as opposed to your father's? After all, following her demonstrations means you'll have less, and following his demonstrations mean you'll have more. But because we've been tricked as children to believe that down is up and up is down, left is right and right is left, good is evil and evil is good, you know, that a man is supposed to want to suffer for his family only, but not rejoice and celebrate with them either. We've been tricked into believing that our fathers are deadbeats while we're looking at the deadbeat do deadbeat shit every day. But what do I know? I'm only sharing with you some of the things that I had to realize. You know, it was there. I just ignored it. Now that I've put it into reality, I realized how much of a fool I was. Anywho, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let's get the conversation started. I'd like your 2 cents on the topic. Tell me what type of reciprocity does or doesn't work for you. And until next time, man time out.